You work really hard on your design project, you show it to your tutor, and your idea gets demolished. If this sounds familiar, then stick around because today I'm going to be sharing a few key takeaways that will hopefully make this less of a problem. What's up guys, my name is Alex, I'm an architect in UK, and today I'm going to be sharing 3 things that I wish somebody would have told me when I was in School of Architecture. Had I known these things, I think I would have much more enjoyable experience and less stressful time in the university. So before we kick off, let's have a zoom out and see the bigger picture of what architecture universities are really about. And if you look at the education system in the UK specifically, all architecture schools are geared towards producing design talent. So knowing that the School of Architecture places such a big emphasis on design education, let's look at a couple of ways how we can make this process easier and hopefully also more enjoyable. So first off, I think it's important to develop a certain psychological attitude. And that is, it's 100% okay to suck in design. Like, you don't have to be good at design. You don't have to know all the design theory, maths, how to do drawings, geometry. It certainly helps to have all those skills and to have some kind of rudimentary knowledge in that, but you're actually going to be surprised how many professional architects are any good in any of those skills. So with so many things to learn, getting at least to the decent level in each of these categories is actually very time-consuming and hard. It requires a lot of dedication and learning hours. And so because it's such a broad field, I think it's way more important to get the information that you need just in time for when you need it, rather than having it just in case, you know, learning the ideas in advance. I think it's much more useful to have the right type of source or reference or piece of article or anything else that would be useful to your design just before you need it, rather than trying to prepare in advance. And so this is important because it actually takes time to digest all this information and to apply it to your own project. And if you do that way before the appropriate moment in your design, you tend to lose all that information. You don't have the retention of all that knowledge, and when it comes to design, you might have to go back and reread all these sources again. So I think that if you focus on extrapolating that information in just before, a week before you are at the stage of the design where you need to apply that information, I think that's way more useful than having to prepare far in advance just for that specific stage in your design. So the next thing I want to cover is the importance of iterations. Now, there's this assumption outside the School of Architecture that architects have to be great at maths, good at drawings, generally smart, and whilst that is true to some extent, it's not as important as it is in other fields like medicine or law. It is actually far more important to develop the capability and skills to come up with design ideas. Again, coming back to that initial appraisal of what universities are all about, the creative skills are by far the most important thing you can invest your time in. And so with that, one of the proven ways how you can become good in any creative field, whether that's art, design, anything that requires creative thinking, is the ability to come up with as many ideas as possible. And unless you're a design genius, which no offense, you're probably not, and neither am I, it's gonna take you a few iterations to get to some sort of decent result. And with that, I would say that coming up with 10 bad or mediocre ideas is way more productive than trying to reach that one single perfect design solution. And so with this ability to come up with various ideas and having that catalog of all the trials and tests that you've went through before coming up with a final design solution, it actually makes you more credible in front of your tutors, who perhaps themselves would have a different approach in the design, and they might not necessarily agree with every single decision that you made, but they will at least respect and take into account the fact that you went through the process, you've tried different approaches, you've tried different ways to arrange spaces, combine them together. You went through all that process, and that serves as a testament that what you're saying is valid. And in the world of personal opinions, which is the School of Architecture, you don't want to be in a situation where your word is against somebody else's word. You actually want to back up your proposals with some sort of proof that you went through the different iterations and you know that this proposal is the one and it works and it sits well within the context. So the last thing I want to cover is the importance of specialization. Now, architectural education is all about this idea of exploration and trying all sorts of different things throughout your education. But in order to stand out in the crowded market that is the architectural industry, you really want to develop specific skill set so that you can stand out from your competition. So choosing what you want to become a specialist in is actually quite a hard question, and it takes a while to come up with a good answer. But what I would encourage you to do is to start thinking about this as early as possible. Unless you want to do architecture as an art vocation, I would encourage you to think about narrowing down, because the analogy that I like to use is architecture degree or architecture license is kind of similar to driver's license in a way. It is difficult to get, but a lot of people are getting it and a lot of people are driving around. So if you were a driver who wanted to earn money with the driving and pay the bills, then you would look at it in a way that would allow you to pick one of the driving jobs. So would it be taxi driver's position, delivery driver, or perhaps race driver? You know, which one of those things you could do well enough so that it can provide you with reasonable income and can sustain your living. So similarly to this driver's analogy, if you're an architect, you really want to distinguish yourself from other architects so that you don't compete with them as much. Because if I look at myself and say somebody else with an architectural registration, inevitably there's always going to be somebody who is way better than me. And so I don't want to compete against those people. I probably want to specialize in something that those other people are not specializing in. Because again, the beauty of architecture is that it's so wide, it's such a big field, there's kind of enough space for everybody as long as you can figure out what that something is and then go after it. So if you already have an idea about what kind of architect you'd like to become, please share it in the comments. If you like this video, you might also like this other video I made on what it takes to become an architect, that takes you through the whole journey from applying to university up to the final registration exam. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like and I'll see you in the next one.